Electric vehicles are taking over the roads, but building the infrastructure to support them isn't as easy as it sounds. Today, we're diving into the unique challenges of EV infrastructure and why it's different from setting up gas stations for conventional cars. Buckle up, because we're about to go on an electrifying ride. First, charging network and speed. Let's start with the most obvious challenge: charging stations. Now, unlike gas stations, EV chargers need to be everywhere, on highways, in cities, and even in rural areas. EV need accessible and reliable charging stations, which differ from the refueling process for gas-powered vehicles. Setting up a widespread network requires substantial investment and planning, as stations must be strategically located in urban areas, highways, and rural regions. Imagine trying to plan your road trip if you didn't know where you could refuel along the way. Fast chargers are especially important because nobody wants to wait hours to get back on the road. But here's the tricky part: fast chargers need a lot of power. Installing these high-voltage stations means upgrading power lines and even transformers. And guess what? Each station can cost tens of thousands of dollars to set up. Would you be willing to wait longer to charge your car if it meant cheaper stations? Comment below. Second, grid capacity and stability. Now, let's talk about the grid, the backbone of our electricity supply. Charging multiple EV at once, especially at fast chargers, can overload local grids, especially during peak hours. Charging multiple EV, especially at fast chargers, creates significant demand on local electrical grids, potentially straining the existing infrastructure, especially during peak hours. Integrating charging infrastructure with renewable energy sources and grid management systems is complex. For widespread EV adoption, the grid must be upgraded to manage these new energy demands efficiently. Smart grid technologies, battery storage systems, and load balancing systems are essential but costly to implement on a large scale. Think about a busy mall parking lot where everyone decides to charge their EV at the same time. This demand can strain the power grid, which is why we need smart grids that can handle these spikes. But upgrading the grid is expensive and requires new tech like load balancing and battery storage systems. Ever faced a power outage? Imagine a whole neighborhood trying to charge EV. Let us know if this would make you hesitant to go electric. Third, battery recycling and disposal facilities. Let's talk batteries. Electric vehicle batteries have a limited lifespan, so once they're worn out, they need to be replaced. But what happens to the old ones? Recycling EV batteries is complicated because it involves extracting materials like lithium, cobalt, and nickel without harming the environment. Electric vehicle batteries have a limited lifespan and eventually need to be replaced or recycled. The infrastructure for battery recycling is still in its infancy, and disposing of or recycling lithium-ion batteries safely and sustainably requires specialized facilities. Scaling up recycling facilities involves research, innovation, and policy incentives to make the process economically viable and widely available. Think of recycling like sorting puzzle pieces, except each piece is tiny, expensive, and needs careful handling. Currently, we lack enough recycling facilities, and building them takes time, money, and innovation. Fourth, standardization across charging systems. Another big challenge is standardizing chargers. Right now, different EV brands have different connectors, which can make charging tricky if your station doesn't have the right plug. Different manufacturers sometimes use proprietary charging connectors and systems, making universal access to chargers more difficult. Standardizing charging interfaces, protocols, and payment systems across all EV and chargers is technically complex and requires collaboration among manufacturers, governments, and industry regulators. It's like trying to use an iPhone charger for an Android phone. Not going to happen. But standardizing these systems requires collaboration from automakers, governments, and regulators, a huge task when every company has its own designs. Fifth, cost and availability of renewable energy integration. We all want our EV to run on clean energy, right? But integrating renewable sources like wind and solar power isn't easy. These sources don't generate power consistently, so we need storage systems to save extra energy for when demand is high. Electric vehicles are most environmentally friendly when powered by renewable energy sources. Integrating solar, wind, and other renewable sources directly into the charging infrastructure can reduce reliance on fossil fuels. Developing efficient energy storage systems to store renewable energy for EV charging and aligning renewable generation with charging demand are challenging. Battery storage technology, renewable energy availability, and grid connectivity all contribute to infrastructure costs and complexity. Imagine using solar power to charge your car at night. Doesn't work so well, does it? Batteries and other storage solutions can help, but they add to the overall cost of EV infrastructure. How important is it for you that your EV runs on clean energy? Drop your thoughts below. Sixth, home charging accessibility. Many people think they'll just charge at home. But what if you live in an apartment or in a city where street parking is common? Charging at home can be challenging if you don't have a private garage or designated parking spot. Many potential EV owners live in apartments or urban areas without dedicated parking, making at-home charging difficult. Solutions like curbside charging, wireless, inductive charging, or retrofitting buildings with charging facilities are expensive and can be technically complex, particularly in dense urban areas. Some cities are experimenting with curbside chargers, but installing them on every street is costly and technically complex. Other options like wireless charging are in development but aren't yet widely available. City dwellers, would you consider getting an EV without home charging access? Tell us how you'd make it work. Lastly, public awareness and education. Finally, there's the human factor. Many people don't yet know how to use EV chargers or manage range effectively. Education is key to making EV accessible for everyone, but it requires support from companies and governments to provide the resources, apps, and real-time info people need. Imagine being new to EVs and driving across the country. Without easy-to-use apps and accurate charging info, you'd be lost. Would you make the switch to an EV if you had all the information you needed at your fingertips? Let us know your thoughts. So, as you can see, setting up EV infrastructure isn't just about plugging in. It's a huge challenge involving the grid, technology, and a lot of collaboration. But as we tackle these issues, EV will become more accessible for everyone. Thanks for joining us today. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and let us know your thoughts below.